A thought experiment first made by the ancient Roman thinker Cicero in 45 BC. The sword of Damocles is a term that has been popularized in the modern era. There was a tyrant named Dionysius II. He was not liked by his people. He lived in constant fear of assassination, had become very paranoid. A professional court flatterer named Damocles continually envied the king's life, and often made comments on how fortunate Dionysius was. Dionysius was exhausted at the time and annoyed after a disturbed sleep, so he asked the flatterer if he would like to experience the life that the king enjoyed. Damocles agreed. The king placed him on a comfortable couch, and Damocles was attended by servants and enjoyed meals in luxurious ointments and perfumes. Then he looked up. A heavy sword that was sharpened to the extreme was above his head, suspended by a single piece of horsehair. After that, the courtier couldn't enjoy any of the gifts given to him without dwelling on the sword placed above his head. He decided to leave the position offered by the king and left the palace. Good evening, everyone. My name is Boomslang. I'll be taking a quick look at a little website that I found intriguing. In the middle of the Cold War, JFK compared the idea of mutually assured destruction, the result of a nuclear war between the US and the USSR, to this parable. This is what life was like for many throughout the world during the Cold War. And as the rise of nuclear threats continue to emerge from North Korea, Russia, and China, and the threat of nuclear war looms again, the image seems more and more apt. The threat continued up until the collapse of the Soviet Union, and many in the West were given a brief respite for a few years before the threat of smuggled nuclear and biological weapons became a threat again. Ever since the invasion of Ukraine, the threat has remained present. In fact, reactors in the combat zone near Chernobyl and other areas have almost experienced accidents in the midst of Russian occupation. Many countries now are seriously considering reinstating or upgrading their nuclear arsenals. Anyway, it's better to be aware of threats like this instead of panicking or burying your head in the sand. That's the premise of Nuke Map, a website established in 2012 by a professor of science and technology studies at the Stevens Institute in New Jersey. Alex Wellerstein is a specialist in the history of nuclear weapons. He created the site to give an idea of what the impact of nuclear explosions are. In his own words, the site is both stomach-turning and the most fun he's ever had in Google. I think it's pretty apt. I personally couldn't have said it better myself. After loading the site, we'll often load at large cities near your location. After that, it's pretty simple. You can select everything from a preset Davy Crockett mini nuke with a yield of 20 tons, a Chinese Dongfang 5, or a variety of other nukes both modern and from the past. Other options include exploding the warhead at ground level or in the air, placed high enough that the fireball doesn't touch the ground. There's also an image of the fallout radius, along with a selectable casualty counter. I know this sounds very morbid, and it is, but it's also a great indicator for what nuclear weapons can do to cities. Before looking into this site, I really didn't have a good grasp of what atomic weapons could do to cities. I'd read books and seen media featuring that idea, think Hiroshima or Nagasaki. I'd seen the photos of the testing of different fission weapons, but up until this point I couldn't contextualize what it would look like from this angle, namely cities around me. However, there's something the site isn't prepared to cover. For instance, I could simulate the Tsar Bomba and place the impact at surface level in San Antonio. While the most recent version of Nuke Maps can show the predicted radioactive cloud, it can't figure out the many variables of radioactive dust and ash being released into the atmosphere. A recent study showed that a nuclear war between, for instance, no reason at all, this is just a random example, Pakistan and India could have massive ramifications for many all around the world. The amount of soot from each country's weapons could reduce global food production by up to 50% and make over 2 billion individuals vulnerable to food shortages and incur starvation. It would also threaten sea life and many other types of ecosystems. Nuke Maps is a great tool for contextualizing nuclear blasts, but it can't predict everything. Definitely check it out if you're in a district near a major port, capital, or big city, and or if you're into prepping or interested in the ramifications of a fallout. Another site I'll mention is Outrider. While it was used more as a publicity tool, it's still a great representation of what a detonation looks like on maps. The Outrider Foundation is a site dedicated to dismantling nuclear weapons and limiting or completely removing arsenals. Designated as an organization, the site has a prettier interface, or at least in my opinion, but more limited options for nuclear weapons. However, it shows off the fireball, heat, shockwave, and radiation waves in vibrant rings of color. Launched in 2018, the site primarily called for education, organization of protests, contacting US officials, and making art. In 2023, we are even closer to outright conflict than ever before. There's a Latin phrase that goes, "If you want peace, prepare for war, antebellum parabellum." No matter your place in your country, it's still great to be aware of different tactics and strategies popularized in modern media and those that aren't. That's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the little video. If there are other sites that map out nukes that you find informative and helpful, leave them in the comments. Take care, and good night.